Hey. I want to talk today about a concept of two realities, okay? And this is related to pain is inevitable, suffering is optional. So if you haven't seen that video, go and check that one out on the Facebook site. I've got a YouTube channel as well. But this one is a little bit different, but still sits with the same concept, okay? Now, two realities is an interesting space because what happens is that we have this space called the now, and it's what we actually experience, and then we have a space where in our minds we construct this concept of what should be happening, what we expect to happen, what we plan to happen, and what we'd like to happen. Now, it's great when what we planned and what we expected aligns with what is actually happening. Okay, because then we're sort of in a flow and we're just flowing through life. This is what I expected, this is what's actually happening. It's perfect and beautiful when it flows like that. What happens though is when the planned reality is very different from the actual reality. And then the greater the divide, the greater the discomfort that comes from it. Because what happens then is when everything is in line, it's all good. When it's a little bit out of kilter, not too bad, but when the further and further it gets away that this is what I planned, this is what I had expected, compared to what is actually happening, the distance between the two is a pain point. And this is the pain point that we're looking at. Now, the interesting thing here is that the more that you resist this space, the more that you resist the actual reality, the more suffering you will create for yourself. So we've got this pain point that sits between the two. The more that we resist the actual reality, the more suffering we then create for ourselves. So pain is inevitable, suffering is optional. We are the ones who create our own suffering. So to come to an understanding of where we're at then is that this point that I had planned, that I expected, what I'd liked, what I think should happen, then really only is a construct of the mind. The only reality that you can impact is the actual reality. Everything else is a construct of the mind. And as much as we then resist this, the more suffering we have, because this isn't going to happen. This is the only place that you can impact stuff. Doesn't mean that you can't stop working towards this space, but first you have to get to this space, you first need to acknowledge this space. And we have to come to an acceptance of this space before we can then move to this space. And what happens is that sometimes we can then spend years, days, years, a lifetime resisting what's actually happening and get caught up in this construct of the mind, the reality that sits in the construct of the mind. Okay? So it's a really interesting concept, and when I'm working with people, what I'm saying to people is that notice your pain points today. Notice what you'd planned and notice what the actual reality is. And if there's a difference between the two, it creates a pain point. And then notice how much you're actually resisting what's actually happening, because that will then create your suffering. If you want to reduce your suffering, then come to an acceptance of the moment and stop resisting the actual. Okay? Just thought I'd share that with you. Thanks. Bye-bye.